On the 19th of April 2016, one day after our Independence Day, I did something that I never thought I had the guts to do. I recorded a video. Now, I know that for some of you, recording a video might be nothing noteworthy, and I agree, you have to understand that this particular video changed my life completely and started a process that is now changing my country, Zimbabwe, as well. The 4-minute video that I recorded was a personal lament at the tragic state that my country has become. 37 years after independence, Zimbabwe was far from being free, even though we were independent. I was struggling to pay school fees for my children, and consequently, I was failing to look after this young family of mine. At the heart of this video was a cry for the future of my nation. It was a call to every Zimbabwean to find their place and to save their country from corruption, injustice, and poverty. I was 3 years old when Zimbabwe gained independence from British colonial rule in 1980. The war had been brutal and our parents had persevered. And finally, they were able to vote for the government of the people and by the people. However, not a single ordinary Zimbabwean at independence 37 years later understood or suspected that what they were fighting for, the freedom that they were fighting for, would be taken away by the very people that they had hailed as their liberators. Since the early 1980s, fear and brutal force became the order of the day. Our citizens were cowed into submission, and the liberty that we thought we had fought for and voted for was nothing but a line in a speech and a lie to those who had given their lives for our freedom. I made a decision 15 years ago that I would spend a big portion of my life helping people. So I became a pastor. I decided that I would teach people perseverance and hope, because those are the only things that a person has left when they have lost everything. The young people of Zimbabwe are big dreamers. I saw this as I taught right across the country. The tragedy is that they have always had their dreams stolen by the political elite of Zimbabwe. In 2016, I realized that no one can fight for Zimbabwe like a Zimbabwean can. I realized that we are the people that we have been waiting for. So I decided to record that first video, which turned into 25 videos, one recorded each day. I spoke to the ordinary person, urging them to speak out against the mismanagement of our nation and the abuse of our citizens. We, the people, are the ones who have both the mandate and the power to challenge our government. From the grassroots, a movement formed. And let me share with you part of that very first video. This flag. It is my country, my Zimbabwe. We go through so much. We don't look like much even now, but there is promise in it. I will fight for it, I will live for it, and I will stand for it. This is the time that a change must happen. Quit standing on the sidelines and watching this flag fly and wishing for a future that you are not at all wanting to get involved in. This flag, every day that it flies, is begging for you to get involved, is begging for you to say something, is begging for you to cry out and to say, why must we be in the situation that we are in? This flag. It's your flag. It's my flag. This flag. Thank you. This flag became and still is a rallying call for all Zimbabweans to restore Zimbabwe as a country that we can be proud to call home. Our movement is dedicated to mobilizing citizens to speak, ask, and to act in the interest of a better Zimbabwe. We want to see a responsible citizenry that shuns violence as a means of conflict resolution and instead promotes the discussion of ideas and the respect of the rights of every citizen. Our movement took on many campaigns. We mobilized people against the introduction of a currency that our government had used to steal real money from poor citizens of Zimbabwe. We successfully rallied the nation to stay home and boycott work on 6 July 2016 as a protest against continued mismanagement and injustice. Since my first video, many good citizens have been abused, jailed, beaten, abducted, and threatened with death. I was first arrested 6 days after that boycott protest and charged with attempting to subvert a constitutionally elected government. It is a charge that carries a 20-year sentence. Imagine that. I had recorded that first video out of love for my country, but here I was being charged with trying to overthrow it. But something amazing happened. During that arrest, as I was being taken to court, thousands of Zimbabweans rallied each other and gathered at the courts to demand my release. This was unprecedented. Ordinary people came out and stood their ground. People sang in the courts and others knelt in prayer before a fiercely armed riot police. It grew dark, but they refused to go home and camped outside the court in their thousands. They brought each other food and lit candles as a sign of their undying flame of hope. At the end of that night, people power prevailed. I was finally released and after more than 8 hours of court deliberation. That event, however, gave birth to a renewed vision of a free Zimbabwe in the hearts of Zimbabweans. I escaped Zimbabwe soon after my release because my wife and my young children, forgive me, these are my heroes. My wife and my young children had been threatened whilst I was in prison. I had to get them to safety, and I thank God that I did. As I was on the run, President Robert Mugabe issued threats publicly and literally banned me from returning to Zimbabwe. He promised that if I continued to meddle in the politics of our nation, he would put me in jail, and that is a promise that he would soon fulfill. But despite the threats, I decided to return home to Zimbabwe. On the 1st of February 2017, I landed, knowing fully well that I might be arrested. I went back home, and it meant that leaving my wife and children, that I may never see them again, and I still haven't seen them. It's been 13 months since I saw my wife and our newborn baby, who I left when she was only a month old. But I came to the critical realization that my generation can no longer cower and be absent from charting their own future. On arrival at the airport, I was immediately detained and interrogated for hours by intelligence operatives. They wanted to know why I had come back home. It's home. I was born here and I live here. I was thrown into Chikurubi maximum security prison and straight into the dangerous section where for 12 days I was denied my freedom. Once again, this was for having dared to criticize the government, and I was charged with subversion. Throughout 2017, I was arrested a further 4 times on further charges of attempting to overthrow the government and appeared before courts over 22 times. One of those arrests was in church on Sunday, right in the middle of delivering a sermon. I had to report regularly to the police, and my passport, which I could only access through an application to the High Court, giving detailed reasons for travel, was seized. I was shadowed daily by intelligence officers, and that still even happens today, including receiving death threats over the phone. On the 15th of November 2017, the military began an operation to oust Robert Mugabe. Even though these are the same people who had helped brutalize us for over 37 years, we, the people, saw an opportunity and a chance to strengthen the citizens' voice and bring a chance of change to Zimbabwe. Whilst out on bail, I began with other activists to mobilize Zimbabweans to march to State House, demanding Robert Mugabe to go. We had never done this before as a people. In fact, in our minds, it seemed impossible, but it happened. On the 18th of November 2017, hundreds of thousands of Zimbabweans marched to State House, demanding Robert Mugabe to step down. On the 21st of November 2017, Robert Gabriel Mugabe resigned. We realized that the job is not done yet. Mugabe, the person, is gone, but Mugabe, the system, remains. There is no place for the kind of dictatorship we saw under Mugabe to happen anymore in Zimbabwe. As we head for elections, we continue to challenge the new administration to respect democratic governance and the rule of law, and in particular the constitution of our land. We implore them to promote reforms that allow the freedom of our people to thrive. We ask them to respect the original ideals of the liberation struggle. We tell them to work zealously to protect our women, our disabled, the elderly, and our children. We implore them to promote the youth and set them up to be successors of a better nation. And finally, we force them to put the interests of the country before those of self or political will. On the 29th of November 2017, I was acquitted of all charges and set free. Today we are suing the government for the unlawful unrest and the abuse that I faced at the hands of the police. Ladies and gentlemen, Zimbabwe, the nation, is rising from the ashes. And though our president has said Zimbabwe is open for business, the question that we keep asking, is Zimbabwe open for freedom? Thank you.